I really had hoped to have some more videos posted by now, but and the one I most wanted to have done by now was having put the new springs on the car, which I have bought the H&Rs, but when to get that started this past weekend, and a number of factors came up, but struck me once I had everything out here and was about ready to go that since I was going to already have to pull the back seat out, which is how you get to the mounting ports right behind here for the top of the shocks, which you have to drop out to get the springs out, that it would just make sense to tackle another project at the same time, which is the mild upgrade I'm going to be doing to the stereo in the car. As with all of the things that I'm doing to this particular car, I'm trying to have a minimal impact on the overall feel of the car, trying to make everything reversible, keeping all of the original parts, so anybody in the future can switch back to the original stock form if they like. I don't have any need for anything excessive. I do understand the desire. I've been a big stereo AV fan, spent way too much money on it over the years. But with these cars, really all I need, I just want decent, clean bass response, and enough volume where I can still hear things and they still sound okay at highway speeds with the windows down, which is important to me. So I'm going to start off small and see how that goes. The red car came to me, the red car, if you've seen my other videos, 1990, which had an improved stereo system in it, came with the kicker coaxes of some sort, something pretty recent, installed into the back, and it sounds pretty good. So figured I would just go with those for this car. So I'm initially going to start by just replacing the back speakers. I have the matching 3.5 or 3-inch speakers that can go into the grills up front, but I'm going to do it in stages. I'm going to see how it sounds just upgrading the back and then go from there. I also have an idea for something I might try using one of those back compartments. I have the insert piece, the plastic insert piece. Not sure if it's this side or the other. I think it's the other side. Yeah, one where this goes, which I'm going to take out so it doesn't turn to ash like it does in some of these. I've got an idea, but if it's not necessary, I'm not going to do it, although I'd really like to. So, since this involves a couple of things which you can find documentation online, both in video and in the forums, but generally it's kind of thrown in with other stuff, I'm going to break this out. So the two breakouts I'm going to do, I'll include links to. I'll be posting all this at the same time, but separated out so it'll be searchable. So removing the rear seat, which is not hugely difficult, but there's a couple of little gotchas. And then one of the biggest things is these speaker grills, which you really need to pull these guys out first. If you know anything about these cars, those speaker grills in good shape, if you don't have them in good shape, are pretty much unobtainium. And even if they appear to be in good shape, which I think these probably are, considering the overall condition of this car, even if they look really good, sometimes when you get to them, they're extremely fragile. So we're going to find out. I have not done anything other than try to treat these things a few times when I was working on the interior of the car. But anyway, To cut to the chase, this will be jumping straight into the stereo install. Probably first I will show you what I did to modify some car parts to accommodate the kicker speakers that'll be going in the back, and then come back to the install of this. And if you check in the description below, you will see links for separately removing the seats, removing the grills. The plan for the rear deck of the car is to replace the factory speakers. This is what came on the 86 and 87, which was just a one-way design. I mean, you know, for what it is, I don't think it actually sounds that horrible. It does have a little bass, whatever. And then drop in, oh, and this is from my parts car. It was already butchered when I got it, but this is the difference when you go to 87, no, sorry, 88, when you also had the door speakers and the, you know, significantly upgraded stereo system, you also had these tweeters. But this was 86, 87. So I want to make this as clean as possible, and I had a very nice surprise in that what is usually the opposite of what you encounter, these things being way uglier and way harder than you expect them to be. I was just looking at this thing, and this arrow, which I think is only just saying to point the speaker forward, but for the hell of it, I stuck the screwdriver in here. And you see, you see that this looks, if you approach this edge from the outside, it's really no good way to get in there, or at least I was afraid to, for fear of breaking something. Mainly the frame, not so much the speakers, but I'd like to maintain those too, since they are in perfect shape, just in case. But so I went in, and hopefully it'll happen on this one too. Started just prying a little bit. And you feel that first little crack. The magnet makes it a little bit problematic. But you see, come loose, nice and easy. Head back towards the front where you have good access. Because when I looked at these things, I was just thinking that the plastic was pretty much one piece, or had been melted in place, or used some permanent type glue. Let's see if I can just wedge it. Yeah, there we go. See? So, but what I discovered was it just is two-sided tape, which made me feel better about my plan. I didn't want to make this a very permanent installation because it still feels kind of weird. It's outside my normal operating mode to good sheep, but I've heard these things, as I will have mentioned, I believe, in the video, and they sound good, and they're very efficient, and they sound good with the factory amplifier. I've heard them in another 420 that I own, so you gotta give them a shot. And also to read a few reviews on that particular driver online, and people did comment on the fact that, you know, they're not considered the best speakers in the world, but they do have good bass. So what I'm going to do, clean up these surfaces best I can, and use some of this stuff. I might go with something different eventually, but this is what you use to put trim on cars, so it is pretty sturdy. And it's not like force is really exerted on these things. Like I said, I might change it. And then I'm going to desolder this factory connections to make it nice and clean. Note that the positive and negative back here, so you just need to keep in mind stripe positive and stripe positive and red positive. So I didn't actually buy these zip ties for this, and it's probably not entirely necessary to put these on, but let's see how they did it. All right. But what the hell, while we're here. But anyway, so since I didn't have any big zips, I want to do this. Good. Just do this, which is fine. Nothing permanent. That's not so bad. There we go. Take your time. Oh, not terrible. So the only thing I did with this to prepare both these surfaces is just sanded it down a little bit and then use some alcohol and a microfiber towel just to get any dust off, and just tested with a little piece of this junk to see if it was going to hold, and I think it does, so we'll see. All right, and while you can, before you seat the other piece, press it in firmly. And I'm going to check. So, all right. As you see from the arrow that I referenced before, that was the front. This is the front. This is the front. This is what I hate about this stuff. That first nub. I think, using the tools at hand, front. Sort of lined up. Not like you can see it. Whatever. I'm not doing it again. Ooh, nice and tight. Hey. So yeah, that's pretty good, right? Check her out. Almost looks like I know what I'm doing. I didn't even rehearse this. All right. I'm going to save some camera, save some phone battery. It's almost ensured that I'll screw up on the second one since the first one went fairly glitch free, but I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm sure I will marvel at it again when I'm installing it. Not bad. Not bad. This is 2 things in a row to deal with this that have worked. Better than anticipated. So something horrible is waiting on the horizon. As you can see, this time I decided to go with one piece. I only did the multiple pieces before because I wasn't sure how strong the adhesive would be when holding the 2 different parts together. And I didn't want to handle the stuff too much when putting it on, but it's strong enough on the other one that I figured I'd try to save myself having to fiddle with getting the edges on multiple. Hopefully just pop right off. Ooh, satisfying. The reason for this we'll see when we go back and put these in the car, but there's not a whole lot of room for there. You run into metal very quickly. There's a hole that would almost, I think, would actually probably accommodate the speaker, but it's not deep enough. There's actual metal structure underneath the rear deck, and so these little things pop it up. I'm supposed to they angle it a little bit, but I don't think that's. I think Mercedes just kind of got down to the speakers and realized they weren't going to fit. But okay, so one of the things that had me anguishing about this for a bit, even though I know I like the sound of these in my red car. But it was driving me a little nuts because with this spacer in here and with the way this works, I do have room for a bigger magnet. But, you know, look through, everything that came in a size would fit here, which is pretty much 6.5. This is perfect. They make a 6 3/4 inch version, but I think I don't think the driver is the different. All it's just the frame. But I was looking at other speakers, and there's a lot of them, obviously. And some of them, you know, look beefier, and I could have accommodated them, but none of them, you know, specs are always suspect until you get independent reviews, which are kind of more difficult with car stuff. But, you know, these, everything I've seen about these, and everything I've personally heard from just having a set of these or something very similar to these in the rear of the red car, is that they have a really nice clean mid bass. And yeah, I've always had big, overly expensive subwoofers. You know, in cars to some degree, not so much. I'm not a crazy basic, but more the home stereo Frontier. But one of the things I've come to appreciate over time, especially since my ears can't really tolerate extended deep bass at any kind of level without just feeling fatigued, is that a good mid bass will fool you into thinking that you've got a lot more extension. I'll take a good kick drum over a, you know, 20 hertz tone shaking the car any day. So that's my opinion on the matter. So anyway, this ain't bad. For me, I'm glad I pulled back and decided to take my time with this stuff. But this is pretty solid. I don't know. I'm, you know, assuming it'll get a little softer. It'll obviously get a little softer when it gets hot. But it's not like anything is trying to pull these things off of the car or pull these off of the frame. And if they do, they're not going anywhere. I'm going to see something else. But seems pretty good so far. So this is one of those other rare things on these cars that is, or has been, fairly simple. When I've done on the others, it's just the 2 screws in the front. And after you do that, always wiggle a little to see what may have set over time. And there's just a couple of tabs. There's just a single tab in back. It just slides right out. There we go. So I think upsides and downsides of a car that's in very good condition and largely original is things like those speaker grills, which, let me move away from my knee while I'm thinking about it, are in much better shape than what I've experienced before. Bad thing is a lot of parts that will have already been out once or twice in a car with higher mileage. Like, I've never had any trouble getting this connector undone before, and that was a little bit of a hassle. So the theory was that if the screws lined up, it would be the right one. That was wrong. It was angling outward. By the process of elimination, I'm going to say that this, not being the wrong one, should be the right one. And there you go. So, And I did actually check I was a little worried that ants. The double-sided tape, the heavy-duty double-sided trim tape. There might have been some flex in the speaker or the frame, but still felt very sturdy this morning. That feels quite sturdy. So I don't think you need to see me taking the other one out. But I'll show you when they're back in. So the only thing I had time for today was to get the speakers installed and cleaned up everything a bit. I'll probably make another pass before I put it all back together again and clean the additional parts which are sitting out in my yard, but did give it a quick listen just sitting here in my driveway, which isn't the perfect demo for what I'm doing, but it's a pretty noticeable difference. Bass extensions considerably better. These are obviously much more efficient speakers. A lot more output. The high sounded good. It was just coming off the radio, but this is going to be the end of phase one of the stereo upgrade. Like I said, this is not a big upgrade. This is not big subwoofers mounted in the trunk. This is not custom installs. This is just trying to preserve everything as best I can while giving me a part of the experience which I find necessary, which is a nice solid sound system for a car like this. Nothing wrong with excessive sound systems if it's appropriate for the car, and I guess appropriate is in the eye of the beholder. But like I said, I do have the matching 3.5-inch speakers that can go in the dash. I'm going to hold on that, see how it sounds without doing anything with those. Drive it around for a bit. I have the one and only head unit, which I'm not saying it's the only one I've been considering, but it's the only one that aesthetically I found pleasing to go in these cars, which I'll talk more about my reasoning behind that, but I had to order it from Germany because there is nothing in the US. There are a couple of others that if this other one had not existed, I could have, I'm sure, been happy with, but I'm hoping I'm going to be much happier with this other one. Is there anything else? I think that's it. I'll obviously have some pictures once I put everything back together again. I really wanted to put the grills back on, but yeah, I really also hate myself if I put them back on, then decided I wanted to do something else in there, and then broke them after extracting them successfully the first time. So I'm not going to do that. Putting them back on, that is. As I said, I'm going to post this at the same time that I post the videos for removing the seat and removing the grills. So if you look in the description below, the links to those will be there. And check back, because I'm pretty motivated about getting the stereo done. It's been detracting from the experience of this car, which overall is a wonderful thing to drive. And so I'm hoping to have that soon. The deck's supposed to get here Friday. Need to figure out if it's going to be feasible between work and time, and haven't checked the weather to also get the springs in, which I desperately want to do. So check back. I'll get as much done as quick as I can because I'm pretty excited to do it. That's all for now.